Okay, so why is Adobe up here talking about the future? You guys know Adobe, right? What do you know about Adobe? What comes to mind? Photoshop. PDF, right. Very, very long-term history in artistic creative, but we actually happen to have the world's largest marketing technology cloud platform, and I'm not here to talk about that, don't worry. What I'm gonna talk about is what we learned by looking at all of the data inside this marketing cloud. Now, my team is an independent research think tank, and what we do is we analyze big data, we come up with predictive models, and we tell the future. So I kind of consider myself a bit of a gypsy fortune teller. So I'm gonna help you with understanding what's coming at you, and then you're gonna hear all kinds of ways going forward about what we're gonna do about it. All right, so let's go right straight into the future and talk about where we're going. Top trends. So I do this all the time, this report. These clickers are having trouble. I do this report all the time, and we started it a year ago. One of the things that we can do inside looking at all of the e-commerce data that we have is we can pull out how much people are buying of what products and what prices they're paying, and we have released what we call the digital price index. This is a corollary to the consumer price index, and it comes out actually really quickly. We can see changes just like that. So for example, if we decide to leave NAFTA, I'm going to tell you what that's going to do to prices within a day. Fascinating, right? Well, that's the power of digital. So let's look at what's happening, because it's going to be a seriously disruptive year, possibly more. We are seeing much more inflation in the United States. 4 straight months of inflation going on, not hitting the states evenly. The reason why we're seeing inflation not hitting all of the states evenly is because of product preferences. So for example, meat products are going up, dairy products are going up, and that's hitting certain states that consume more meat harder than others. So this is the information that we're able to glean from big data, and it's going to tell us that our models, think about this for a minute, we have not seen inflation in the United States at this level for all the time since the iPhone has been invented, pretty much. So all of your models, all of your predictions are going to be wrong because they don't have the economic underpinnings to tell you what's actually coming at you. Be prepared. It's going to get very volatile. Prices right now for television sets hit highs and lows in the same month. That month was November. What happens in November? Black Friday. So what's going on right now is people are waiting for these dips. 50% of all televisions sold in the United States in November and December were sold on one day. Yep, that's how much we're interested in seeing low prices. What else is going on? We're waiting for those big sales, and that is changing and shifting all the patterns of buying in the United States. So watch out for the volatility of pricing and the unpredictable nature of what's coming at you this year. We have to adjust our models really frequently. If you have business models, be prepared to change them, to look at adding in new elements. Go after business models that are enabling customers to live a luxury life. Prices are going to go up. The desire to live a luxury life is not going to go down. I'll give you an example. There's a site that I just ran across called SilverNet. One of the things going on in the United States is we have a large and growing retirement community. SilverNet is a collective site that allows you as a retired person to find other retired people to live together so that you can continue to live in a house, a very nice house, but not have to pay for it with the same kind of mortgage or property insurance or taxes and all of that you would have to pay for. So this is an example of continuing to live a lifestyle that you used to have, but not having to pay for it as much. So if you're in startup worlds, if you're in venture capital worlds, I would say this is the place to look. And disrupt yourself. There was a very good quote in the video that we just saw at the beginning, change before change changes you. I believe in that very strongly. I constantly disrupt myself. If it feels too comfortable, I'm probably doing something wrong. And then commoditize what has been disruptive and get over it. If you're in a business and it's no longer the thing, well, it's time to change and move into a business that is. Just commoditize it, drop the prices, and go forward. Now let's talk about saturation. In the world of digital in the United States, this is going to surprise you probably. The number of visits to US domestic websites has not grown in 2 years. We are absolutely saturated. The internet is at full speed and it's not going to get any bigger. What is happening is that we are shifting from our desktop device or laptop to our mobile device. So mobile device is up 69%, but it's taking away from desktop devices. Now let's think about that for a minute. You now have a screen size that's this big that you're using almost all the time. What does that mean when you're doing e-commerce shopping? It means you don't buy as much. The amount of shopping on a mobile device is 29% lower than the amount of shopping on a desktop device. So as retailers in the United States, and in other countries as well, face this shift from a desktop over to a mobile device, they are seeing declining revenues. Now this is kind of, this information hasn't even been released yet. I do that, sometimes I bring out something that we haven't even told anybody else because I like to share with you guys. You know, the time that you're giving me right now, this is the most grateful gift that you can give anybody. It's the most important thing in life is our time. So let me share with you something that might blow you away. We were asked by a reporter because they're doing a story in the United States about shopping. And I don't know if you guys have been following the news, but we're having the largest amount of retail physical store locations closing down that we've had since 2008. Have you noticed? Heard the news? Well, have you also heard that people are saying, well, they're going online, they're going to go do e-commerce? Yeah, you heard that. So this reporter's writing a story about that, and they came to us and said, well, tell us, what is the growth in commerce in the United States online, Q1 versus Q1 of last year? Guess what it is? 0%. 0. Why? Because of the mobile shift. Because as people are moving over to those mobile devices, we're not seeing growth. Now, one company in particular is growing dramatically, and that's Amazon. And I call some of these companies the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I'm sure you can, right? You know who I'm talking about. They're taking your money and putting it in their pockets all the time. And some of them, you know, they're all very, very successful companies. I'm not going to bag on that. I'm also going to say that I've been in Silicon Valley long enough to know that there's always a tide that goes up and goes down, right? I was looking back at old Wired magazines from 1997. Yes, I'm that old. And there was a cover on it, and it was a picture of an apple with the apple stripes, and it had barbed wire around it, and the headline was "Pray." Do you guys remember when Apple was going to die in 1997? Yeah. Okay, well, guess that changed, didn't it? So things do come and go. I'm not that worried about it. I think there's lots of chinks in the armor for Amazon or whoever else is a big monopoly right now. But what's happening in the world that you're living in is what I call a journey rut. Okay, think about it like this. I live in Utah. We have a lot of wild animals. It's awesome. Moose. I can see moose sometimes, elk, and they're migrating, right? And they're migrating, and they kind of have decided that they've created this little path. You know what I'm talking about? These deer paths, these animal paths. Well, that's what we're doing on the internet. We're actually creating ruts and paths, and we're getting to the point where we don't want to go and look around as much anymore. What is happening is total time on websites is down. The most impacted is the finance sites. They're down by 32.4 minutes on average. And when we're seeing what's going on with visitors, most visitors are only coming to the site one time, but then you've got your loyal visitors. And the most important thing going forward is going to be to protect the loyal base. If you have loyal customers, you better be treating them like gold, or platinum, or whatever, like, is even more than platinum. Diamonds. I'm using my elite status information here. I don't mean to disclose that. Okay, so what is happening here is that you have to really dig in and figure out how are you going to treat people special, because that's where you're going to get that loyalty from. We were talking with the folks last night about air travel. And who's in love with air travel right now? Nobody, yeah. talk about a business that needs to figure out, and it actually has these different status things, and you'd think they would be able to know not to lose your bag because you're a super high platinum status person, but no, they don't seem to know how to do that sort of a thing, how to get their service to the level of where the loyal visitors or loyal consumers are. So do this most importantly, because the biggest problem that you're going to face is the attention economy. This information right now is telling us that you have to earn permission to engage. The whole kind of blasting out of information to the world is over. Advertising as we know it is going to die. And many people clap when I say that because they really hate it. So, and that's okay. What are we going to do next? Well, we have to capture attention by saving time or providing value or just go away, because people don't want to hear from you unless you're doing something for them. Loyalty is alive until it's dead. The information that we see about loyalty tells us that when people visit your site regularly, or they're engaged with you regularly, they don't send any flares that they're about to leave. They go from massive amounts of visiting to zero overnight. They just switch. Think about it. Have you done that? Yeah, you have. You just decided this thing over here that you were loyal to, all of a sudden you went to that thing over there, and you never went back. That's how we are nowadays. Our attention spans are fast, and we are very loyal until we're not. And then we're gone. So regulation. I want to talk a little bit more hopefully about some of the things coming on. I saw there's a VR device out front. That's awesome. The VR device is very interesting, and not because it's a VR device. I mean, that's cool. But what's really interesting to me is navigation. Have you noticed that there's a new wave of navigation coming up? I call it the fourth wave. Be prepared for it, because we missed the whole mobile thing. So let's get on board with this stuff faster. So what happened early on is we had a keyboard. Then we had the mouse, right? Then we're navigating with the mouse. And then we had a touch screen, touch pad. So we had touch. Now we have voice and movement navigation. So we're now in multiple forms of navigation all the time for everything that you're doing. And that's going to come along very quickly. This is what it looks like when you're navigating in VR. Go check it out. You're just looking around, and then you pause on something, and then it opens. This is what's going to now be an area of need when you're designing things, when you're thinking about product development. And it's not going to be super fast, but it's going to come along. Let's talk about this idea of a joy sticker. A joy sticker is basically our consumers now have their hands on the joystick. They're moving us around all over the place, right? Just ask United Airlines. Just ask Uber, right? Do I need to give you more examples of something that just comes out of nowhere and slaps you upside the head like, you're gonna die? Right? This is what's going on. The growth in Pokemon Go came out of nothing. And retailers and everyone else weren't ready. They were like, whoa, big new thing. Okay, we got to jump on it. That's the speed we're going at now. And let's talk about millennials for a minute. Millennials are more likely to post to social media, more likely to take a selfie, more likely to engage in public writing, to write a review, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do I need to say more? We are very, very engaged. And we want to make sure that we can react as marketers, as business leaders, as fast as possible to what's going on in the marketplace. And I will give you another very scary stat. This one's scary for me. We have just had the next generation below millennials enter the workforce. That is happening this year. Am I right? We call them Gen Z, kinda. Some people call them iGen because they grew up with iPhones. I actually found a new one, and I really like it, so I'm going to float it out here. Maybe you'll pick up on it. Maybe I can own this naming a generation. Wouldn't that be awesome? I'm going to call them crafters. They grew up playing Minecraft, right? But they believe very much that they can modularly create anything. Okay? These are going to be crafters. Be prepared. We're going to start talking about this generation now. Millennials, we're over it. We beat that one to death. Okay, think about VR, think about voice, especially voice, and all the ways that it's going to enter into our lives, and not just our lives, but your businesses. It's a powerful potential disruptor. The retail industry is extremely nervous about it, and the reason why they're nervous is because when you ask for something, instead of looking around and browsing for it, it's a whole nother level of brand identity, right? So you're gonna think of things off the top of your mind, and where is that gonna come from? Awareness and recall. And that's gonna be extremely important going forward. It's gonna get very hard for you to figure out the line between privacy and great experience. Very hard. The whole Uber thing has backlashed into this unenroll me situation. Have you guys been following this news? Apparently, some of the information Uber got after people took their application off the mobile phone came from a company called Unenroll Me, who has a privacy policy that says, I'm going to use your data. And everyone's mad at them for using their data. Well, it says that. But right now we're facing a huge backlash against the use of data and not knowing, even though it's in the privacy policy. So the privacy policy may not be it anymore. Backlashes can make or break brands in seconds, and you have just the last month to see exactly what that means. All right, let's talk about one more thing, digital video consumption. Originally, digital video was designed to be a supplement. We're going to look at adding mobile devices to your video consumption opportunity, therefore expanding the opportunity to reach you with premium video content. ESPN, you want to see your games, whatever sports you're interested in. At work, we used to call it, kind of like the March Madness. Remember that one? You'd be like watching it on your phone under your desk, like, what's going on with baseball, basketball right now? But that's not what it is anymore. Actually, the peak hours are at the same time as prime time. That's because we connected up our television sets. The biggest seller of television sets in the last 2 years has been smart TVs. Smart TVs are connected. We connect. Therefore, we go to Netflix, we go to Amazon Prime, we go to YouTube. We do not consume the way we used to. And it's very difficult for the entire advertising industry to figure out this shift. But there is also a decline in the amount of video consumption going on. And that's going to change our ability to reach people with content because they're headed over to YouTube. And they're headed over to user-generated content. And that makes it very difficult as a brand to figure out what to do because now there's a whole thing about, well, I don't want my content on Google and YouTube to be on something, on content that is not okay for my brand. There's that backlash happening as well, right? So where can your brand show up in digital that isn't necessarily going to be, I don't know, some hateful person talking about some discriminatory practice that you don't want to be associated with. That's another big challenge coming our way. All right, it all comes down to commerce. It all comes down to automating our future. When we think about automating technology, this is the big new change going on. And for people, analytics, for HR is a new IT. I'm going to have to throw you a bone on that one because it turns out that is the most important place where people are starting to automate. And we're also seeing things like pre-programmed grocery shopping. Routine tasks and chores we're going to stop doing. We're not going to use an autonomous car to drive up a mountain canyon that we like to drive in our Porsche. True example, that's what I do. And I love to drive. I'm not going to do that. But what am I going to do if I'm in traffic in the Bay Area going into work? Am I going to put it on auto drive? Absolutely, that's a chore. That's no fun. So we're going to actually be fleeing all that stuff, moving to fun. We're also going to forget about things like our homes. We're going to put things together. Talk about modular. When we look at modular, we're going to see things like IFTTT. Anyone use that? Okay, IFTTT stands for if this, then that. And what it means is that I'm going to take this device and I'm going to connect it to this device with this program where people contribute to it with modular information. Think about the crafters I was just talking about. This is the version of putting together their own scenarios. Take a look at it if you don't know, because what's going to happen is as we stick stuff together, we're going to forget about it. We're not going to remember that we actually stuck that stuff together because once we've done it, it's good. What have I done? Well, I figured out how to have my Alexa find my phone in my house. All I had to do was use this little program and attach the two, and then when I ask Alexa to find my phone rings. Kind of cool, right? Because it's really a pain when you can't find your phone. We're going to be looking at power. We're going to be looking at power over Wi-Fi. And we don't have any sound on this one. But let me just tell you, this is an idea that I don't know if it's going to happen, but there's an opportunity to change the way that we power all these devices in our houses. So be on the lookout for that, because if we can get power to more places, we can have sensors in more places. Think about places that are wet, like your shower. And start with businesses that answer the question of what we want to do, not the technology. Automation's going to be here driven by AI, but you all know that. It's going to take a little while. Think broadly, though. What we're seeing right now is an innovation wave that we can jump onto, but we can't be stuck in the old way of thinking. We have to think in new ways. One final thing, and this actually speaks right into our ability to have a drone come in and take pictures of us as we're going to be sailing around the Caymans. What I have now been involved in getting information out of the Adobe Creative Cloud, which is fascinating because in the Creative Cloud I see cultural trends because artists upload pictures that have certain trends to them. And one of the pictures that's coming in is aerial viewpoint. I call it a superhuman vision. We have not seen this view of our world in a very long time. Now, what is that going to mean for us? Well, it turns out by looking at social media buzz, we were able to find a situation that happened in South Africa. The drone went up to an apartheid versus non-apartheid area, and it showed a picture of a line, a stark line, of basically ruins next to beautiful houses. And this caused such a social outrage that we are now seeing that viewpoint causing big cultural and political dramatic problems. But they're not necessarily problems if you think of it one way. It's actually an opportunity to talk about it. The same thing is happening in North Dakota at Standing Rock. So these drones with cameras in them are up 165% in terms of purchasing. Regular people are having these drones with cameras, and they are now going to take pictures of everything that goes on everywhere, and it's going to be in your social media feed. So watch out for these trends as well. Jump onto them. Finally, complicated heroines. It's the year of women's empowerment. Have you noticed? Awesome. I'm so in for it. We looked at the imagery of women in the Creative Cloud, and we found that women's role is much more multidimensional, not singularly focused. And I'm going to say unpolitically correct thing right now. It's not just sexy, okay? It's not just homemaker. It's a very complicated role for a woman that we're portraying in our marketing activities. We're very interested in moving forward in understanding the true nature of our being, and marketers are taking advantage of that shift. They're taking advantage of that shift, and you have no sound here, so this isn't gonna work, but this is a perfect example of what we're talking about as the shift of women going towards strong, attractive, smart, all of that all at once. Okay, I'm going to close up with all of the macro trends. I'm not going to read them for you because I think that I've explained as many as I can in the time I have. I'm a little bit over. So with that, I am here. You're going to be able to see our data if you want to go look at it at the CMO.com website. Click on Adobe Digital Insights, and you'll be able to get access to our data. We're putting out hundreds of reports a year, and the whole point of what we do is just help you guys be informed and move forward successfully. So with that, I'm going to turn over the stage, and thank you for your time. Come see me later if you have questions.